As most of my listeners will know, I recently became a father to a perfect little girl. This moment in my life has had a profound impact on me, as it does with almost all new fathers. The feeling of holding your child in your arms for the first time is something that I am still trying to explain, but there quite literally are no words for the beauty within this moment that God created. As time goes on, I will make a few videos about my experiences as a father and the lessons this great part of my life have taught me. I hope to make this a great way to capture my thoughts and to reflect on as time goes on. And bear in mind, I'm no expert on the topic. I'm just a new father trying to do the best I can for my family.
I remember the days of my life. I recall the faces, mostly yours. Magic moments, life was a mystery. There's no place on earth that we'd rather be. Moving up, going through some changes, storing up the memories. Then you gave me the light of my life. I always gave the best I could give. I remember yours, this is my life, and I'm passing on the memories.
All South Africans my age will instantly recognize this great classic advert. It will bring back many fond memories, as the title of the song would suggest. Memories of hot summer nights, braai smoke, talks with Dad, waiting for the next episode of Airwolf or MacGyver, bike rides at dusk, tuk-tuki, hide and seek, and a burst of great memories. The song, titled Memories, was written by noted Christian musician Andre de Villiers, and I think it captures the essence of fatherhood beautifully. Life is an adventure, but the greatest adventure is the search for the treasures of God's love as a family. A good friend of mine told me recently that being a father can only be described as the most precious and beautiful thing that a man can be part of. And I feel this is very accurate. The aesthetic part is the beauty, because there is nothing more beautiful than the look of love from a child towards his or her parent. The precious aspect is that it is of great value and is not to be wasted or treated carelessly. This is even more precious today, because it seems to be an antidote to the madness around us today. Strong families guided by a strong father who provides for, protects, and fights for them is something that is more precious today than any material wealth. You know, all things noted, and the fact that I am pretty comfortably middle class at this point in my life, I wasn't always. I grew up as a lower class white guy in a poor small town in the Eastern Cape. My parents didn't have the money to send me to university, although they did their utmost to provide an opportunity for that. I, in my rebellious youth, screwed it up, but I learned a hard lesson from that. But that's another story. The point I'm trying to make is that I was by no means privileged at all. Well, in the modern materialistic view of privilege, anyway. I came from a poor small town to the big city. I had no social skills of how to deal with the city or how to make a living and so on. But I did it. I did it only because of the fact that I had a great privilege, a privilege that money can't buy. I had two loving parents who loved each other, stayed married, and raised a good, strong man. Now, I'm not saying that all people who come from broken families are bad people. I'm merely saying that it was the comfort of knowing that although we didn't have much in the line of material wealth, I had a family and a warm home that was always there. I think people generally underestimate that. And I'm sure this would resonate with people from broken homes who have always just wanted that. So my family life growing up was by no means perfect. It had many, many hurdles and a huge amount of struggle. But looking back on it, my folks always gave the best they could give. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. My dad is a good father. We have a superb relationship. And I consider myself extremely blessed to still have him just a phone call away. My dad is a Rhodesian, and my mom is too. They're both proud Rhodies. My dad did his national service in Rhodesia in the 60s and was drafted to go to war in 1976. He reported to his post at the Rhodesia Regiment. At that time, my brother Russell was only about 6 months old, more or less the same age as my daughter is now. I often think about this, very often. So my dad packed up his stuff, and off he went to fight in a war that he very well could have not come back from. I didn't really think much about this until recently. Just the other evening I was chatting to my dad, and I don't know, but I wanted to find out what it was like. So we drifted between topics ranging from Rhodesian vampire jets to Fire Force operations, and many other things we had discussed in a very matter-of-fact way before. But I wanted to find out more than broad details. I wanted to know the exact details. I started asking about how the draft process went, and then how it was when he had to leave and all of that. Then I asked him, I said, "Dad, did you ever kill anyone in the war?" Now, growing up in South Africa, pretty much all of my friends' fathers went to the border, but very few actually saw action. A lot spent most of their time sweeping barracks and filling sandbags. So I thought my dad had pretty much done the same thing. So when I asked him the question, and he answered in a subtle, gentle tone, the same way he had spoken to me after he had just given me a hiding as a kid, with love, he said, "Of course, my boy. It was either them or me. It was war, and I did what I had to do." Now, at that moment, a lot of guys would let their young boy mentality get to them, and they'd be like, "Damn, Dad, that's hardcore." But I didn't have that reaction. My reaction was one of sadness. Sad because I finally realized what my dad had to go through as a young man. And suddenly, my obstacles felt tiny. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure going to war must have been an incredibly exciting experience for many that did go. But the reality is that it was real bullets and real blood. And I'm pretty sure that realization hit pretty hard when the bullets started flying. Anyway, why am I talking about my dad going to war? Because although I don't think going off to war is what makes you a man, I do think that a man doing what he must for his family is what makes that man a father. even if it means laying down your life. This idea, the idea of true Christian patriarchy, is what is lost in our world today. Now, I'm not really pro-war. I believe that there are political vendettas often pushed to forward a globalist idea that ends up destroying the soldiers who lay down their lives and their families. I do, however, feel that the idea of fighting for your family is always needed, and an imminent threat must be kept away from your family. Something that also became incredibly clear to me over these early days as a father is my mortality. The thought of not being there to protect my family is a daunting one. I know my daughter will outlive me, God willing, but the thought of knowing that a part of me will live on in my daughter after I am gone is incredibly reassuring. Now, I'm not talking about her physical genetic traits and the resemblance to me. I'm talking about the great lessons I will teach her, the spiritual guidance and love I will show her, will shine through in her and onto her children. A legacy that I build onto from my father that lives on in me will live on in her. The thought of that is profound, exciting, and not to be taken lightly. Don't get caught up in the noise of pop culture and the thought that having children is going to be too expensive, or I'm going to travel because, well, I have to experience new cultures. Honestly, to hell with other cultures. Learn to love your own culture. I'm only saying this because I was that guy. I've traveled the world, met people from every corner of the world, experienced their cultures. What did it give me? Really? Nothing. I'm still the same guy I was before traveling. It didn't change me at all. What did change me was getting married to the love of my life and meeting the other love of my life, my daughter, obviously. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't travel at all. Just don't be like me and get caught up in it for 8 years, chasing a dream of a bigger bank account and more trips to foreign hellholes. One of my biggest regrets was not having children earlier. Sadly, I have to learn my lesson, and now it's time to make up for it. But I know the thought of adventure is alluring. Believe me, I know. I'm an Anglo. But the adventure of becoming a father far outweighs any trip around the world. In today's day and age, we have our own set of challenges. In our current world, the battles are not fought in jungles and bushes and battlefields. Our battles are fought in the realm of ideas, influences, and the destruction of culture. It is our duty as men, husbands, and fathers to train ourselves the same way our fathers learned how to operate their weapons. We must sharpen our minds, raise our awareness of the insidious spirit that hangs over our world like a dark cloud raining down wickedness and dread. We must strengthen our will to fight and stand up against this eternal struggle, for we know that it's through God's will that we bear these burdens as men, and it is to His glory that we persevere as men, all the while fearing God, but no man, bowing to our King in heaven, but to no human fool. Teach your family this. This is the greatest protestation against wickedness and the bastion by which we will win this war.